Today we're talking about Chapter 2-5, which is Statistics, Displaying and Analyzing Data. We have quite a bit of notes today that we're going to try to get through, and we're going to get started. So number one is a data set. And a data set is just a collection of numbers. It's a set of numbers that go together, some kind of information that someone has collected, and that is our data set. The second thing we're going to talk about is measures of central tendency. And there are three things when we talk about central tendency. There is the mean, the median, and the mode. The easiest way to remember these is by these short definitions that I have written down. The mean is the average of your data. And I'll show you an example of that in a second. The median is the middle of your data. And when I think of median, I think of that thing in the middle of the road. When you're driving down the road and you have the little curb that's in the middle of the road, usually has plants in it, that's called a median. It's in the middle. Median is the middle. And then the last thing that we're going to talk about is the mode. And this is the most important word for mode. Mode is the most. The number that appears the most often in your data set, that is what the mode is. So write down these numbers under mean. I'm going to show you how to do an example of finding the mean of our data set. So our data set includes the numbers 52, 48, 63, 57, and 65. To find the mean of these numbers, first I have to add them all together. So you can do this the old-fashioned way, or you can use your calculator. So right now, enter all these numbers into your calculator, and let's see how much they add up to. Everyone do it. Who's adding?
285.
Ooh, that is correct, Rayleigh. You win. 285 is how much they all add up to. So we add them all together. I'll put some plus signs here so we can remember what we did. And we got that number. And now once you add them together, you divide by how many numbers there are. How many numbers are in our data set? 5. If I count, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I'm going to divide 285 by 5. What is it?
We add
57. So my mean of these numbers is 57. You add them all together and you divide by how many numbers there are. That will get you the mean of any data set. So now median. To find the median of my data, remember median's the middle, I'm going to put my numbers in order from least to greatest. And then I'm going to see which number falls in the middle of my data. So I see 48 is my smallest. And then I have 52, 57, 63, and 65. So those are the same numbers from part A. I just put them in order from least to greatest. Now, which number is right in the middle of my data? 57. That's all you have to do for median. 57. Just put them in order and look for the one that's in the middle. If you have an even number of numbers, you have to take the mean or the average of the two that are in the middle. Okay, so say I have, let me use a different color. Say I have the numbers 33, 35, 37, 39, 40, and 43. So now I'm going to look at my two middle numbers because I have an even number. I don't just have one number in the middle. I have two numbers in the middle. And I'm going to take the average or the mean of those two. So I add them together, 37 plus 39, and then I divide by 2 because there's two of them that I'm working with right now. Hold on, I'm not hitting the right keys on my calculator. And it's 38 because you can tell 38 is also in the middle of 37 and 39. So my mean for this one would be 38. Any questions? Okay, last thing, the mode is the most. So I'm going to give us a different data set for this one, and we're going to find the mode, or the number that we see the most. So here's my data. So if I'm looking at these numbers, which one appears the most, Rayleigh? 48 appears the most. So 48 is my mode. Because it's listed 3 times. Maybe these were scores on a test that people didn't study for. That means that 3 people got a 48. Okay? So 48 appears the most. Okay, we're talking about line plots now. And all a line plot is taking some data, a data set, and putting it into a visual chart or graph. And that's what a line plot is. So a line plot is a number line. So draw a line. And then I'm going to look at this data set and I'm going to see what is the smallest number that I have to go to and what is the biggest number that I have to go to. So what's the smallest number you see up there? 0. Smaller? There you go. -2. Oh no, what did I do? Ah! Don't laugh. It's not funny. Did you laugh, Rayleigh? Okay. She's trying not to laugh. So -2 is my smallest number, and then what is my biggest number that I have to go to? Come on, people, wake up. 4, thank you. So we're going to draw all the numbers between -2 and 4. And I'm trying to draw my lines about the same distance apart because a true line graph has everything equally spread apart. So now comes the fun part where we make our line plot. Once you figure out the numbers, now you're just going to put an X above each number every time that number appears in your data set. So right now, how many -2's do I have? 3. So I'm going to cross them out so I know I used them. And I'm going to make 3 X's above my -2. And I'm going to switch to lines because in a line plot, your X's have to be even going across the page. So try to keep your 1 X's going like in the same line, and if you have 2 X's, they're in the same line. You'll see what I mean. So how many -1's do I have? -1's? 0. How about zeros? I have 2 zeros, so now I'm going to put 2 X's for my 2 zeros. And see how I'm trying to keep it in line with my first X's? And how many 1's do I have? None. How many 2's? None. How about 3's? 3 3's. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. And how many 4's? 4 4's. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay? And that's how you make a line plot. Now we're talking about stem and leaf plots. Again, we're going to get a set of data. So write these example numbers down in our data set. And we are going to make a stem and leaf plot. A stem and leaf plot is a way of writing data down so you can quickly see which area you have the most scores or the most data in. And we're going to say these are test grades because they look like they could be test grades if there was extra credit. And we're going to want to see how many students scored in the 70s, how many scored in the 80s, how many scored in the 90s, and the 100s. And we do have a couple 60s also. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to look at my range. On the STEM side, we are writing the tens place. So I have 60 is my lowest, and then I have 70, 80, 90, and for 100, we're going to write a 10 on the stem side. Now the leaf side is all my ones places. So this can be a little tricky. Make sure you pay attention. I'm going to change colors. And first I'm going to look for my 60s, okay? I have 62 and 61. Did I miss anything? Oh, 64. So I'm only writing the ones place, but I'm writing it in order from least to greatest. So I have a 61, a 62, and a 64. Then I'm going to look at my 70s. I have a 71, a 74, a 78. I think that's it. If you see that I missed one, give me a shout. All right, so I'm going to put those ones place numbers in order from least to greatest. So I have a 71, a 74, and a 78. Does anyone have a question so far? Okay. Now I'm going to look at my 80s. I see 84, 85, and 89. So again, you're putting them in order from least to greatest. I have an 84, an 85, and an 89. Now I'll do my 90s. I have a 6, a 7, a 2, and a 3. So 92, 93, 96, 97. And just a side note, which I forgot to say a second ago, I'm so sorry. You need to keep these guys lined up. Because this, sorry, my lines aren't very straight. This is how we're going to see which category has the most scores in it. Because we can see whichever one is the longest, that has the most scores. All right, and then my 100s. I have two 100s. I have a 104 and a 108. Yep, so the 90s win. There's the most scores in the 90s, which means that teacher did a good job teaching. There's some hundreds, there's some 80s, there's some 70s, and there's a couple 60s. But you can see how this chart gives us a quick visual of how well the students did and what their scores were. Okay, I'm totally running out of time, so I'm going to go through this fast, but you can watch it as many times as you need to. The last thing is called a double stem and leaf plot. And it's when you have two sets of data. You can see here that we have class 1 and class 2. And we're going to say this is a quiz that was worth, let's say, 35 points. And some kids got extra credit, it looks like. So what I'm going to do for my stem, which is now in the middle, and I'm going to have leaves on both sides because I have the data set 1 and the data set 2. The stem, I have to look at my tens place and see what is my smallest 10 to my biggest 10. So my smallest 10 is just in the tens place. Then I have 20s and 30s. Now I'm going to take one class at a time and I'm going to put all the ones down. So I'm going to look at class 1. I see 18, 14, and 16. So now I'm going in order from the stem going out. Okay, so I'm kind of working backwards on this side of the double stem and leaf plot. Then I'm going to write down my 20s, 22, 26, 25. So I got 2, 5, and 6. Notice how I'm lining my numbers up. And then my 30s, 31, 35, and 38. 1, 5, and 8. So in class 1, my scores all fell very evenly in the 10s, 20s, and 30s. Now let's do class 2. In the teens, I have 14, 15, and 17. Now I'm going in this order, away from the stem, 4, 5, 7. My 20s, I have 25, 21, and 28. 1, 5,